Alright, so let's switch to an example. I have already set my working directory, but what I would like you to do to follow up if you want to use your computers is to go ahead and download the HR small dataset under Canvas and datasets. This is the same dataset that is presented on the PowerPoint slides, and it's a 4 observation data set with the ID number, the sex, the age group, the educational background, and the annual income of 4 employees. So we're going to go ahead and read the data. The data set name is HR small, so I'm going to call it HR small, and I'm going to use the read CSV function because it is a read CSV file. It is a CSV file, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Now, I just wanted to let you know that we're going to get some sort of a warning from R when we read it, because the annual income has some commas in there. Now, what happens is, because this is a CSV file, as a comma separated file, R is going to think that this is a delimiter. So when it finds a given comma, it thinks that the new observations, the new variable or values are coming in. Now, R is smart enough to be able to fit it into a data frame almost perfectly, but just be aware of that. So again, the warning message, it says that it might be incomplete, and the reason for that again is that it finds a couple of commas there and it is expecting more values. Now let's take a look at it. HR small. We have actually a few of the variables, actually, so it's 6 variables. Some of them are numeric and some of them are actually categorical or qualitative in nature. So if we want to take a look at the variables, at the types that R has, we can type structure, SDR, and for the dataset HR small. And that'll let us know what kind of variables we have. Also, we can also click on this blue arrow here, and it shows the same output. So we can see that ID number is an integer, which is a numeric variable. Sex is a factor, which is a qualitative. Age group are both integers, considered numeric. And educational level is a qualitative factor, and annual income. Now, there are a few things that we need to do in order to have a data set, this data set ready for analysis. And the first thing is, are there qualitative variables in nature? So remember what we talked about, the variable has to be qualitative in nature, that we should change. Again, qualitative means are these groups, are these classes. And one thing we can think of is age group. This is basically grouping the employees by age. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 are merely groups as opposed to just numbers. So this variable is actually misspecified in this variable. R read it as an integer, and it should really be a qualitative variable. ID number, generally that should be a qualitative variable, but we are not going to use ID number as a predictor or in the analysis at all. This is just a value for IDing the employee. So we're not going to make any change on this variable, but we are going to change this particular age group to be a qualitative or categorical variable. The way to do this in R is to use the as.factor function. When we pass a variable to the function as.factor, then what happens is that the variable is changed to be a qualitative factor. So generally what we need is just to pass the variable in there, and the constructor on this R function actually just changes the variable. Generally, what you would like to do is overwrite this variable in the data set. So one thing you could do is say HR small $sign to signify that this is the variable we want to change. H group is equal to, and then as factor of this same variable. Again, what we are doing is overriding this variable, HR small $sign H group, override it with the as factor function, which will change it to be a factor. Okay, now we can change back, and immediately you can see that this changed to be a factor. But if you want to go ahead and try the structure, you can do that. And now we have H group as a factor with 4 different levels. Okay, so this variable now is considered to be corrected. It's considered to be the correct type for analysis. Okay, now annual income is a variable that should be numeric. It's a numeric in nature, so it goes both ways. Some variables that are numeric, variables that are numeric can actually be read as factors if they have, let's say, a $sign or any other character in them. So this variable, we ideally need to change it. If we don't change it, then this would be considered, every one of these values would be considered a different level and would render the variable unusable. So we're going to go ahead and change that. And to do that, there's multiple ways to do these, and I don't expect any one of you to kind of remember the code to do this, but I'm going to use something called tidyverse, or package to tidyr, so that we can basically change it in one line of code. So I'm going to go ahead and call this package. Is called tidyr. I already have it installed. If you have not installed this ever in your computer, you like to do install packages, and in quotes you want to name tidyr, and that would install the package for you. So I would expect that you try this step if you've never installed tidyr in your computer. So now I'm just going to go ahead and load it. Once you have it installed, you should be able to just load it, and then you can use techniques called piping, so that you can actually perform various steps at the same time on the same line of code. So let me show you an idea, and again, I don't expect you to either memorize or know how to use IDR at all, but it is just so that you can see how things work, or how you can change a numeric, a qualitative variable to be numeric. Okay, so HR annual income, that's the variable that we want to change. You can see that it has a few values, and each of the levels that it has corresponds to different values of the numeric variable. The first thing, we want to get rid of that $sign, and we just want that variable to not have that $sign anymore. And we're gonna use something called piping, which is like I said, is percentage sign greater than percentage sign, which indicates that I want you to pass this variable and do the next function, pass it through the function. And the function is gsub. Gsub is the function in R that actually substitutes something by something else. So what I'm going to tell R is to substitute every time it finds a $sign, substitute it with nothing. So and the way that we do these in R is that we want to substitute $sign with nothing. Now the way that $sign to avoid that you have any errors in understanding that particular character, you would want to do the // $sign to be sure that it captures the $sign character as opposed to something else. And I want to substitute that with nothing. So every time it finds that $sign, substitute it with nothing. And then just basically do that for the observations. Okay, so basically if I run that line of code right there, it just gets rid of every single time that we find a $sign. Okay, so one thing I can do now is I need to get rid of that comma. And again, the only reason I'm using tidyr is just to do it in one line of code. So I can actually do another pipe in here, and I can do another gsub, and I'll tell R to, when it finds a comma, just substitute it with nothing. Okay, and what that will do is just get rid of that comma. So let's see if it did it. And now we don't have the comma in any one of those values. But there's one tiny thing that we have to fix. Right now we see these quotes, and whenever you see a quote in a variable in R, it just means it is categorizing it as a factor still. So we want to change that to be a numeric. And the same thing we used here, we used as factor. If we want to change it to be a numeric, we would just say as numeric. So I'm just going to go ahead and do another pipe and say, now change it to be as dot numeric. Just so again, the piping basically allows you to pass the data set under different functions at the same time. So these actually would just work in one single line. And actually we got rid of the $sign and the comma in just one single line. Again, I haven't done anything to the data set, so what I would like to do is just override these annual income variables. So I would say HR small annual income is equal to just the line of code that we had. And now you can see that income right now is numeric because we changed it to be using the as numeric constructor. Now we just changed it to that. If you want to take a look at it using the structure, you can basically see. Again, I'd like you to remember that that we did that in a video. Of course, not remember the line of code, but if you ever have to change and get rid of $signs and commas in a given data set, then this actually this line of code would work well, and it's pretty straightforward. Again, no need to remember the code, but right now what we did was change annual income to be numeric and change the age group to be a factor. This step is essential before we do any regression. Data and real data is often messy, so we have to do these steps before we can actually do something related to modeling or regression. Right, so this is it. So we'll continue on.